Great, we are live back with Roleplay Podcast, the global, galactic #1 roleplay podcast, the only one that I know of so far. But hey, we've made it now. I think we're on like episode, I checked, now we're on like episode like 21 or 22, which is
21.
Yeah.
Can you do something for me?
Yeah. What 21? What, that?
Yeah.
That was it? Okay.
That was it.
We are joined today by DasMehdi. By the way, Mehdi, I need to give you context into, I feel so bad because, you know, I always love bringing you on. We originally, the original context is Spaceboy was going to come on today, but he's in the middle of his like uncapped subathon. But like a week ago, he'd be like, yo, I'll come on. But then he had to cancel last minute. And I was like scrounging for people. And thank God you came on, because I realized I can run a million of these episodes with you. You're a yapper. You're a role play legend.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, DasMehdi, the current mayor in NoPixel, one of the mayors
of Los Santos. Yeah,
of Los Santos.
We just need Ssaab now, and then we've got one of each person that's become mayor at this point. Ssaab, when are you doing it?
Yeah.
Next arc, whenever you're done. Got a record expungement, and then I'll run on Ssaab. And this time around, I'm making myself the chief of police.
Let's go.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I'm about that. Our loose the loose topic we'll have today, but we're gonna talk about everything. We're gonna talk about this. It's actually Ssaab who pitched this, which is like kind of going from like Crim to Cop, then back to Crim, then to Cop again. I mean, Mehdi, something that you do that is actually impressive to me is you do like really good kind of like arcs with a single character, and you've been known to, you know, main Cop for a substantial chunk of time and then main Crim. Literally my first question is, how do you do that? Like, that seems so hard to do.
I think it's because I don't know. Like I think I get bored. You know, it's and once that boredom comes in where I feel like okay, so every character to me is like similar to playing a specific game, right? So you may play like PUBG for 4 months. You get, okay, you've had enough of it. Now you want to play Tarkov. You get enough of it. You move to play another game, et cetera, et cetera. To me, every character I sort of, when I go into it, I've got a very similar mental in that perspective. So at a certain stage, the story I want to tell, I don't feel like there's really much more to do on that character. I jump to the next.
I kind of like that. It's like variety gaming, but in
RP edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I actually based a lot of my role play. Like I don't know if I've really even told my chat this, but you're probably my biggest inspiration for why I do multiple characters. I think it was really seeing the split that you did between Nino and Lil Tugs made me want to like do more of like a, you know, like Mickey more on like the Nino sort of high level side of crime, and then to make more of like a true like gangster character. So I think you're like a huge inspiration. I think one of the things I'm really curious about though is, how do you handle all of the cop stuff though? Like, so I can understand switching between maybe, and for those you know, who are watching the Roleplay Podcast on YouTube or listening in on Spotify or any of your other favorite platforms, hey, Ssaab, cross off. We got our shout out. We're done.
Well done.
Nino plays Mehdi plays Nino, Lil Tugs, and Brian Knight. Brian Knight being your cop character. I understand the switching between the two Crim characters. What about when you have to then go play cop again? Is that hard?
No, not really. I think funny enough, I was watching a video on stream about 2 days ago about me trying Arma roleplay like 9 years ago. And what was crazy about it was, if you've seen some of these like variety guys come over and they just completely are like, hey, is my mic working? That was me, right? And as I continued like learning role play, trying to see how others were doing it and sort of building off of that, I eventually got to a point where my character, it's the character's knowledge base, how it arrived to who that character is as a person, became very concrete in my mind. So when I do the context switch, I can speak to a very deep background as to who he is, why he's a certain way, why he likes bagels, but maybe not, fries. And I think because of that, when I do a switch, whether it's Cop, Crim, whatever it is, it's easy to swap.
You already have it built into your kind of role play, so that's why it's not much of a transition, right? Because it's not something new; it's something different.
Precisely. Yep.
When you were starting out, who were like the people who, because like you said, at one point you came in Arma days. Who are the people who inspired you or who you learned the most from to become a role player that you are now? Because you're like, when people mention like legendary role players, you're easily, in this short list of the top ones, right? Like you're always up there.
100%.
Where's the origin of that? Sab, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I was also like I remember when Nino came to like SOE in a Family RP. I think it was a Family RP. He was known outside of that, right? And that was not something that happened often as a character, right? Like Nino Chavez was known outside of that, and I was like, whoa, holy shit! Like I thought it was just some asshole I met on the street, but this guy, he's like, is somebody.
I would say to answer your question, Bob, like I think it's really just a collective set of people I role played with, and I think we collectively sort of evolved with Arma roleplay being just kind of a place where you did shitlord storylines into a lot of people recognizing that this is like our new this was now our occupation in a weird way, and collectively building off of each other to create kind of expectations and unsaid rules, if that makes sense, so I wouldn't say there's any particular person, but it's been like a collective of folks, whether it's like Timac, whether it's Classy, whether it's Mike Bayo, right? Like maybe a lot of people don't know this, but Mike Bayo is like an OG Arma role player. Like Nino and Bayo goes 9 years back.
Damn.
See, I don't know the name you're even referencing. Who's Mike Bayo?
Iceman.
Iceman.
Yeah. He played Michael Bayo for a while, played on SOE, played on Lotus servers. He recently played Captain Turner, which
Bayo
was one of the three captains.
Yeah, the name Bayo sounds familiar. What was Sab, did you ever do Arma RP?
I did, but I never did on NoPixel, and I did Daisy RP, man. Daisy RP was fucking hardcore, really hardcore. Like if you died, you died.
What was roleplay like on Arma? Like I never got the vibe of it.
We should watch some clips honestly together. I think we should.
We need to do a roleplay podcast where we do react to that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be sick. I would say, it depends who you talk to, right? It was so sometimes you'll hear on NoPixel, it caters to a wide range of styles of RP, right? And I think that's what it's traditionally been well known for. Arma had a much wider breadth of that variety. Because to give you an idea, NoPixel Silver Lake had 3 250-man servers running concurrently.
Wow.
And each one had its own sort of vibe to it. Now, some people I think have walked away and look at Arma as like just a place where there was no RP or like it was shitlordy. They may have had bad experiences. For myself, I still to this day think some of the best storylines that have been told on Twitch actually originated over there. Like I'm talking about multi-month long arcs. But it was a place where you could do some shitlordy thing one day, on the same day, and then later in the evening be involved in like a deep, very drama-y like storyline.
Let me ask you something, Mehdi. How come it has not transitioned GTA? Is the roleplay still not the same from back then that it is today? What is the difference now, you think?
You used to be able to RDM if you had a roleplay reason. Yeah, there was a point where I was known as RDM Chavez, but it was known. Now I will explain why. There was a lot of factions. It was like the Lost, the bikers, they called them. There's another MC that used to live like in the north. There was the Mafia. There was what later became the Mob, and like there's a lot of like inter-faction role play. And there was because I would say because the RP in the community was so collectively developed, and all were in it for like a collective, sort of, for storylines, is that the heads of, let's say, families could do shit because they were trusted enough that it wasn't just you shoot them, you would know that something else would come out of it, and it wouldn't be just to, get the pogs. Does that kind of make sense?
Right, but when you say you can RDM somebody with a reason, how does that justify? Who justifies reasons? What makes it legit in roleplay? Because my perspective could be legit, but really, is it really legit compared to somebody else who might know what's going on, right?
Because like right now, RDM is like you have to initiate, right? And which I think in a story form is very awkward. Because like let's say, I don't know, I'm Nino Chavez, and
Okay.
El Ssaab sleeps with my like significant other, right?
Sure. Okay.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
As he would.
And I walk into a club and there he is, and I decide to blast you while you're like on the microphone, right? I feel like
don't you think it would be proper roleplay to say something before shooting? Not because you have to initiate, but it would make the scene even better, right?
no.
You
Like
don't think
imagine
say something,
imagine
hey,
in
you
the
fucked
end
my
of-
wife, bitch, and then you shoot him, right?
No, because that character can still learn that. So the difference was like back then, that the other character is going to give you the background and you may not know it yet. So that still allows you to wonder why. But because the other RPer will fill in that gap, it's like, imagine this. Imagine the last scene in The Sopranos. Someone came up to Tony and was like, yo, you did all these things. And then it's like black screen, like, or,
Yeah, no, I get that. I get what you're saying, right?
But I don't think you could pull that off nowadays, because I think if someone shoots you, it's probably because you did some small shit. Where like if you were to do that back in the day, there was more meaning behind it, and it was guaranteed that other RPer is gonna give you the background, right? I don't think you're guaranteed that now.
Yeah, because you're starting to sound like wild RP kind of RP. What are you talking about there? And trust is very lacking sometimes in roleplay, and it's what hurts a lot of things that happen in RPs because people are not willing to trust each other, right? And so what they do is they protect themselves from getting fucked over.
Like you would want people to. I feel like what you would want, right? Like imagine this. This is the reaction, Mehdi. Let's say we're on NoPixel. Someone comes up to Nino and just fucking pulls a gun, fucking shoots Nino and walks away. And what you want is you want the reaction from you, Mehdi, the streamer, and any streamer in this. You want the reaction to be like, oh shit, like, oh chat, like who was that? They just gunned down Nino. Like what? That's got to be some crazy, like there's got to be something like you've got to be almost like excited, like yo, like there's mystery. Oh, that's crazy.
Right. Yes.
But I feel like
doors about to open up.
I feel like nowadays it's like. And I'm not like, and by the way, I'm not criticizing anyone individual. I'm just saying this is more of like a culture sort of thing. I feel like the first instinct, they pull up the what is it, the Steam ID list. Like they're like okay, Chad. And they're like, well, that's
Did I just get RDM'd?
Yeah, did I just get RDM'd? And then I mean, they're like pulling up the numbers so that they can report the person, right? They're not defaulting to, oh, why did that just happen, right?
Yeah, but why is that the case? Because there's no trust, right? If you trusted a lot of people, you're like, okay, there must have been a reason this happened. Some shit must have went down.
Well, I mean, and I'm not surprised people don't have the trust. I mean, how often is there follow-up? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that goes to for everybody is like, when you do something, are you doing follow-up? And I'm gonna be straight with you. Nowadays, I feel like follow-up role play is categorized into like yapping or like being a pussy
Skip.
and all these
Yeah,
things,
Skip.
and it's cringe to be honest.
It is pretty cringe. I do agree with that. Because that is just as important as doing the whole entire gunning somebody down.
Yeah, and I think Mehdi, I actually I never thought about this about like why RDM would be good, and that's a crazy thing to say, right? But like when I think about it, I'm like, I think of that one scene. You guys mentioned The Sopranos. There's that one scene in The Departed too, at the very end. Spoiler alert, but a certain character gets shot at the very end, and the guy who shoots him says nothing, and it adds so much. It just adds so much to the scene, right? It's that it's like showing, not telling. Obviously, there's still a lot of good stuff where like you want to yell some shit too and yell a one-liner and then shoot someone. So you still have that option, but I agree. I think it adds up more options. What other things do you feel like have maybe like NoPixel or just GTA RP in general are missing from like the Arma days? What else would you want to see more of?
I mean, there's been so many. I wouldn't. Now, Arma wasn't perfect, right? You had these like insane moments of like, you'd be in the like I'd be in the casino and Raj Patel would be flying an airplane into it.
Oh my god!
To blow it up for the
or Saeed.
The seventh time that week. Yeah, or Saeed. Yeah, there was so much crazy.
Wait, Raj Patel is in Austin?
Austin?
Yeah. We used to roleplay with him all the time. Yeah.
Wait, stop. Austin roleplay.
You want to know the OG storyline?
What?
Him and I had in-game talk shows, and I remember I used to talk to him down at back when he used to RP. We'd be like, it's like, oh man, I always wanted I want to do this, but like in real life. And it's always crazy to me that eventually he actually did. Yeah, his podcast started in Arma. Oh no, it started before that. It started with the RuneScape. So it went from RuneScape to bringing into in-game Arma drama, which was so good. It was like, you'd have this talk show where it'd be like, this in-game character is sleeping with this in-game character, and like someone was pregnant with someone.
Well. Remember?
That's true in SOE.
He did all that in SOE. All that.
He did GTA RP.
Yep.
Yeah, and he did Family RP as well too.
Dude, this is a huge lore unlock for me.
And NoPixel. He played NoPixel too.
He played NoPixel?
Oh, true.
Yeah, he played as a cop on NoPixel.
Dude,
that was funny.
It's so funny that you guys know him as Raj. I literally only know him as Austin. Nowadays, it's like, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok enough to see this, but like the Fear and podcast literally gets memed on as people call it the Austin Show, because his name on TikTok is Austin Show, and all the clips that like pop off from Fear and but literally all the ones that pop off are always Austin, doing Austin things. Right. Honestly, makes sense.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, he's got talent, man. That guy's talented.
Oh yeah,
dude. I need to ask about that. That's crazy. I had no idea.
No, he's an OG. Like he knows how to RP. It's crazy. I mean, 100%. Dude, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think people knew what his actual voice was for years. I could be tripping, but
no, I think you're right, because he used the RP voice even when he streamed.
Do you guys
use the character all the time?
There are some people where like I almost feel like they're god tier role players, but they kind of, and this is not to knock on all of us, but I feel like they kind of graduated from like GTA role play, and they're kind of above us now. And this is like an Austin or like WillNeff even. I feel like they're like, I know they're good role players, but they're almost too good. They're too good for us now, Like it's because they're insanely talented people, but.
I think they'll come back. Like I said, people come, people go. Yeah.
Well, there was an idea that WillNeff had talked about that NoPixel reached out to him about, which I always loved. It was Will was gonna come in and maybe he's still planning to do this. He was gonna do a movie. He was gonna do the character Marco St. Marco, and he was gonna basically come into Los Santos and just produce a movie, and it'd be like an actual maybe short film that's then filmed within NoPixel, hiring all the various characters as actors and actresses.
Oh shit!
We still have to
Didn't
do a
he
podcast.
try doing that at one point, or
Continue.
am I? Didn't he try that like in the beginning of 3.0, or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah,
Like
I
he had
think,
the flying camera.
I think he did try to do it in 3.0, but like it's one of those things, you know, where it's like it's hard to get people's buy-in on stuff like that. Like it's weird. It's like you almost need to like do it at the right time, because I feel like sometimes if you do it too early in like an arc of a new server, like the problem is there's like a lot of people who are like actually just kind of on the grind and like trying to like which is fine, by the way. Like they're trying to establish their characters, they're trying to establish their gang, their crew, whatever the case is, right? It's like you almost need to wait until like later in the server's life cycle to like do something like that where people need stuff, you know?
Right. I think right now NoPixel is in a good position where we can start pumping events and things like that, because people are kind of civilizing in a way to where it's not going to be too much causing imbalance.
I always talk about this, Mehdi. I'm curious about your thoughts. You know, a lot of the jobs in the server are like they're automated jobs, right? And I know you've done quest giver stuff on Nino in the past. I would love if NoPixel. Oh man, I wish NoPixel had another role. Like you guys have, there's the devs, there's the admin teams, and then I wish there was a special whitelisted role called quest giver. And the idea of a quest giver role is, and maybe it's not on your main like not on like a main character, right? So maybe Mehdi, you can do
it should be like a one lifer.
Yeah, or not even a one lifer, but like a like infrequent. But like the idea is that the character maybe like as a one, not even one lifer, like 1 week character, and they come in to create like a job or an opportunity for people.
Well, that's actually what we're trying to do in the mayor's office. Doesn't fully do, I think, what you're thinking, but one thing, for example, we did right off the bat is I reduced tow pay all the way down with the intent of those savings getting pushed into actual tow companies. And by giving state money to those active tow companies, they can then go out and produce, you know, the RP themselves, right? Hire the people they want, get the vibe they want, et cetera, instead of leaning on this like lifeless, soulless, very mechanic-y thing. And
entity left. Yeah,
exactly. It's a thing that's been left off the table, right? Like I just you know, but I do see where you're going with this. Like if Eve Summers in game mentioned, for example, another way to bring materials. Maybe we have G6 workers pick up like X amount of materials from the docks, and the cops might want to protect it, and the Crims could go and attack it, but they might have to learn about that in character. You know, there's a lot of these like little things that can be done, but ultimately it has to be put in the right people's hands. Otherwise it becomes, you know, dangerous.
Yeah, I'm excited because I got a couple things planned that are going to happen that are going to be really cool. And I'm trying to also do what you're talking about, Blau. I'm being that quest giver, right? And I don't want to do it for only crime. I want to do it for civilians, cops, and criminals. And do a theme one, depending on what's going on the server and the meta, to give people something more to do instead of always having this PvP against each other, you know, all the time. But what if it's something different, you know, that could be happening in the server for other people? So that's what I'm trying to work on too.
Yeah, people in the chat actually mentioned this, but they already started doing this. They did it with Kylie and her the character that introduced boosting. I think stuff like that's really cool, right? Like, or like, and I like it also just for civilians as well. Like, what if? And again, I think it's fine that you have things like G6 or senior buns or like whatever else that's just sort of automated in there. But like, I'd love the idea if like, you know, a character came in for, you know. I'm like, it's like one of those where I'm like, I low key am like kind of pitching on Mickey. I just don't really have like, I wish I didn't have to do it on Mickey, right? I wish like I could just have $1 million, not on Mickey, random other character. And that character comes in and is like, yo, we're putting on a fashion show in Los Santos. Cause like we're in the middle of Dress to Impress season. And I'd love to see people like do Dress to Impress in NoPixel, right? And
right,
they could get paid for it if they win.
Imagine winning money because of your creative artsy design of your clothing versus like how much you can do this mechanic pretty well.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to let. Yeah, go ahead, Mehdi.
Sorry, I was gonna say like this is something. Zooming out a little bit, like on this topic, but also covering that RDM from earlier, is it is trust. And it's the notion of role play over rule play, which the reason why RDM is such a big deal is because the trust isn't there. So it becomes a very rule oriented instead of role play first. And that goes into that concept of can you trust people to have those facilities and not use it selfishly or do something that may break something? Because you give the wrong person $1 million, that money's going to fall into their own gang, right? And in the same breath, there's nothing stopping anybody on the server today when there's so much money being produced for they themselves to generate that money and then inherently give it back. I mean, give it back in doing those things. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but the problem is like people do a lot of these grinding, getting this money in game, and they give it away, and it's just like it doesn't feel like they're getting much back by doing that, right? So it's a pretty selfless act for the most part, and it could get very exhausting, and tiring, doing over and over again, and not having the tools to support you again and again and again.
I guess my argument is that if someone did do that, right? They're running their G6, whatever, and then they take that money to create something. That's a indicator for someone that may be a good candidate, rather than
100%,
someone
100%.
random.
Yeah, 100%, because they already have the mindset in their head already.
Yeah, I think like a good example of this, I think, is like Dim Oak is a really great example, or Capped on Pigeon, right? Like these are people who like consistently go out of their ways to basically like operate almost at a loss for their own character to generate like events and cool stuff for other people. I think that'd be really cool. More stuff like that. Richard too, yeah.
Oh yeah, Richard, yeah. I mean, stuff like that is definitely coming for sure on the server. I can't wait. I won't say too much, but stay tuned.
Ooh.
Yeah, when I'd love to see more stuff like that. What other? I like this line of where we need more trust in RP. What other elements do you think we need more trust in, Mehdi? Because I feel like
that's the biggest thing. If you don't have trust, everything else is pointless. Like you can add like there's it wasn't just Arma, right? It was Arma, SOE, Family RP, RP first, the various iterations of NoPixel. I think everything had its own like theme, had its own world. The world shaped by the particular characters that played the most. And each one of those things inherently generated the vibe around it, and it's never been about the mechanics. I think some of the best storylines were in the past when mechanics didn't even exist, like the popular clip where the cream pie clip that Ssaab knows very well. Back then we had couldn't even make phone calls. It was a huge text box to contact people. And back then, I remember Ssaab's character turning his life around and using a hammer emoji to work at the tow lot. And it's not like he was getting paid, right? No one needed to run, there was no mechanics around that tow lot, and people RP'd it. And I think, if the trust is there and people are thinking, are we going to make a storyline and look at other players as potential candidates in their storyline, and they're willing to give and take, everything falls into place. Everything else is kind of just an excuse for being creatively lazy, I think.
Yeah. I think one idea that I saw in chat, and I'd be curious for your guys' reaction, is, and this is a big point of like contention, I think, in servers, like the gang wars, or like any sort of like gang versus gang PvP. I feel like a lot, and people joke about it being RP esports, but like, I do think there needs, or like trying to prove that you're the top dog. I do wish more of it was about creating scenes and was about like the story. And like, I'll even give a really good example of a conflict. I remember that this is early on in 4.0. And this was it's still to my, like this day, my favorite conflict. It was the Manor versus Chain Gang. And I literally remember the scenes from it. There was this incredible like ambush outside of CG's warehouse where the Manor were like up above on like the highway shooting them. Like it was up above some warehouse area, and it looked really cinematic. It was at night. It was a great ambush. And then the other one is in the cul-de-sac where like, you know, Mr. K has like all of CG just go and fucking shank the Manor like in the middle of the cul-de-sac while he's like cold and like walking away. And it was like two great scenes. And I think after that, the conflict ended. But it was like, wow, both the sides just created like really good kind of scenes for it. I wish we had like, how would you guys want gang wars to sort of play out in this idea of like, how does trust factor in there?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I listen, I've even when playing on Prodigy recently, I got a lot of shit for being very gang war averse. I don't vibe with recent day gang wars because I find them to be boring. The one that you're referencing, I was a part of on Tugs, and I loved it for the very reason that you described. There was meaning behind it. It felt cinematic. It felt like there was lead up, a reaction, and follow up. But, you know, when it's just like, you know, my boy, yo boy, you crashed into me, some like random bullshit. I'm just like, all right, dude. You know what I mean? I'll just check out. Yeah, there does need to be more. And if there isn't, then like it's just I just find it boring.
Do you think it's okay? Like, I mean, and I don't know if everyone agrees with this, but like I would be okay with my, you know, if I'm in a gang or a crew, whatever it is, I'd be okay with us just like taking the L and getting kind of fucked over if the scene looked really cool, you know? And I feel like more people maybe need that mentality that it's like okay to like just lose if it looks cool. Like if it's a good story, right?
I mean, hot take. The problem is that chat pogs so hard that it's hard for any L's to be taken. I think collectively as a community, it doesn't matter if it's a court case, whether it's a gang shooting. It's like, you know, I think collectively we're too pussy to, when chat starts like, you know, giving you shit, people feel like they got to do it. And, you know, I think more people need to just tell chat to suck a dick and just keep on rolling with what makes sense. I think that's step one, to be honest. And it's easy to be like, don't get influenced by chat, but it's, to me, pretty obvious that it's the greatest influencer, whether it's chat, server, whether it's like
on the server,
you know,
hands down.
Discords, whether it's like fucking YouTube, whether it's like, who gives a shit? They're just fucking popcorn eating, you know, like overinvested indies, you know? And, but I can equally understand that it's hard not to succumb to it, right? Because in a way, they're seen as the potential ticket buyers, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they're watching. It's like, I don't know. It's like I watch this crew or this people because they're good at this and they're the best at this. But it's like, oh, well, wait, now they're like, I don't know. But
the reality is people are going to watch anyways, right? Like it literally doesn't matter. Like people can put their extreme opinions in one place or another place, but at the end of the day, they're going to come anyways. So who gives a fuck? Like, like what are they going to go do? Watch like a fucking Fortnite or whatever people watch nowadays? Hell no, bro.
My thought is like, I feel like this is bad, but it's like GT. Like I feel like some of the GTA RP viewers would be like, yo, I watch House of the Dragon and I support the blacks for the Targaryens. I support the black side of the fight because they have the most dragons, dragon side. And I'm like, oh God, they don't know. Like it's like and they're like I could see them like raging at God, who's the dragon rider who rides Melis? It's not
I know what you're talking about.
This happened.
Yeah,
it's happened. Not even a spoiler. This happened like several episodes ago. But they were like, "Why did you already were good for one? Why did you go back in?" Like,
bro, you know, I'm gonna expose myself for being a boomer, but it sounds like the Twilight series when I was in like middle school. what is it like team whatever and team whatever
Jacob
like
versus Team Edward.
Yeah, it's sort of
Yeah,
like it's
that-
sort of like that. It's sort of like that. Yeah, I mean because of the just two opposing factions.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think we are. I think reality is, and I know that we are wishing for better things. Maybe I'm being pessimistic about this, but I think reality is RP has become mainstream. It's not going to change in a way overnight unless there's a massive overhaul in the community, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think being at the end of the day, we cannot control the outside forces or the environment. You can only personally do the best and to make things work.
I don't think we've seen the ceiling of the RP community though. I think it's going to get bigger, crazier, more toxic, and more wild.
I mean, yeah, and like, I think more toxic, but also more, passionate and excited about stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's a double-edged sword. I'm all for it. I've accepted, this reality. I've accepted it fully.
Mehdi, how do you deal with how do you deal with like the communities? Because you've been role playing for a while. I think I'm theming this episode as a legend of RP, DasMehdi. How do you deal with the community and stuff like that?
I think I was blessed to move to Facebook, and I had my most hardcore audience go over there. And that's when I realized like I got to role play again. And I realized leading up to before that move over, I was way too invested in what people thought of my actions in role play. Does that make sense? So whether I was on Brian or whatever character I was on, I put too much stake into making sure that these people that don't even like watch my stream or whatever have an influence on the decisions I made, where every decision I made in the back of my mind subconsciously I'd be like, oh my god, what's Reddit gonna say about this? What's YouTube gonna say about this? What would some random toxic Discord say about this? And when I went to Facebook, it didn't matter because I was getting paid anyways. You know what I mean? Like whether I did it, whether I was lazy or putting effort in. And in my opinion, when I went over there, I started role playing again. And when I came back, I maintained that attitude, and now I just don't give a shit, And it allowed me to block out the voices, and for me that's put me in a better place. And I think generate better RP, to be honest.
So you think going to Facebook helped you as a role player, because it kind of like it gave you like a much more sort of like smaller tight knit community?
Yeah, I think so. Like it goes back to my point that I think this L's and W's and the decisions you make. I think deep down, for myself, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would speculate that it's probably similar. Is you start to wonder whether your decision in RP is going to be an uptick in subs, an uptick in viewers, is going to be a downtick because your character decided to do something that is not accepted by people on the outside. Does that make sense?
Or it goes against the narrative or what people want.
Yes, exactly.
Being a heel sucks in RP, man. I'm just saying.
Finally, Ssaab has his moment. Oh my god, I was waiting for you to break, honestly.
I'm not breaking. I'm just saying being a heel sucks. It comes with some good, sure, but there's a lot of bad.
I've been waiting for you to just have a meltdown.
Wait, what did he say? Being a what?
A heel. It comes from a wrestling term, right? What's it mean? It's like basically being like the butt of the
villain.
joke. Yeah, the villain.
Yeah, the villain, the bad, being the Bobby Charles of NoPixel.
Oh, I love playing villain, dude. It's so good.
You actually did a lot of good villain stuff with Brian Knight.
Bro, I put 60 people in on prison. I don't give a fuck. That was, if I didn't have that Facebook mentality, I'd probably been thinking, I was like, fuck this. We're throwing a fucking bomb on the CMS and kicking her in.
But I feel like that's what drives a lot of just chaos and molding on the server is people doing things not because sometimes RPs, because of just You know, they want something going, right? And I don't blame them sometimes. Sometimes it could be dull, you know? It's not easy come up with things for 7-8 hours and keeping chat entertained, right? So I get it.
I actually I really loved what you said though, where it's like having that kind of break made you a better role player. Want to also ask, like, what do you have any other sort of specific moments or like things where you're like, you feel like your role play evolved and got better? Because I mean, as you say, you've been doing this like 9 years. What were like the major moments where you're like, oh, like I got better after this?
Arma was a big point. I think I don't know. It's kind of like, it's hard to say. It's like when you find yourself in a circumstance where yourself and others are cooking up a storyline and you're all contributing to making that storyline better and it coming to a cool conclusion or a cool peak, and you look back at the journey and you sort of take in what made that happen, and then you try to apply that in the next set of circumstances you get into. Learning from the past, from good moments, and trying to apply it for trying to not necessarily fully replicate it, but at least the things you learn from it.
What about you? What about you, Ssaab? What made you get better?
Ooh. Wild RP, playing Red Dead. It made me elevate my RP a lot, man. Because I had to roleplay. I couldn't just like, you know, wing it. I couldn't just like get on and do whatever. You had to be a character because of the plot and of the setting. You had people that were roleplaying their ass off, and like you were just had to step up your game to RP with them, right? Because these guys were just fucking so good at what they're doing, right? And it really humbled me and taught me a lot.
Yeah. I feel like anytime I get pushed into like Red Dead, it does that for me. I was also gonna ask you, Mehdi, how's Mayor been, and how do you feel about doing Mayor RP?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I am stirring so hard, but just by role playing, it's great. But you get a lot of the cringe lords that sort of are like, I deal with a lot of cringe lords who are like, well, guys, this is not the most optimal decision as the mayor because, and it's like, I don't give a fuck about the optimal decision. Just wait till Carmine Costello becomes chief of police. Everyone's gonna be molding.
My
it's
God.
so good.
Oh, dude, and his ass chief Bobby Charles, that's it. It's over. It's Jover at that point.
Dude,
Yeah.
I've only caught like little clips and little glimpses, but I love what you've been doing on Mayor, because when I was Mayor on Mickey, I joked about the theme, but like the idea of stir the pot and just doing something different. And this is something I feel like everyone, I think there just needs to be this mentality when you go in of like, what's like a different thing I can do? How do I like switch things up? And I feel like Nino as Mayor is just completely like, is doing that. It's like stirring things, switching things up, curveballs, right? Like you need curveballs thrown in RP.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what drives it, right? Like playing optimally on anything just is boring. Content is boring. Storytelling. And I'll tell you straight up, I am genuinely already dropping like little tidbits where I'm trying to do like Trump RP, where we're talking about like sending people back to Blaine County, having FEMA tents in the Russian docks, doing tariffs on people taking food and selling it in Blaine County.
Yeah.
Like, building a wall, like all these like little things, because like it's ridiculous, but it's GTA roleplay. You know what I mean?
Right.
It generates scenarios, and like what that does to other characters and affects their optimalness is irrelevant and unimportant. Is it like we're not playing a simulation, you know?
Yeah, I love that. You're gonna have someone try to like fake Nina's assassination and have a bullet grazed by your ear?
All right. Oh, you haven't seen yet, have you?
No,
You haven't
wait,
seen
did
these-
you already?
I have a ear bandage
Oh
that I had
my
Dev
God.
put in.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Amazing. I
Yeah,
wish I could have that as a
and-
mask or
and
something in the
Tilly-
game. I want that.
Yeah, and Tilly, who's my executive assistant, I've been RP is that she's my Kamala Harris, and I'm training her in case I get COVID.
Holy shit, dude. You know, one I like that you're doing this, Mehdi, because one thing I felt NoPixel kind of missed, and I love Squeaks for doing this. I felt like NoPixel was kind of missing a little bit of like real life commentary or like real life kind of political,
or parody.
Yeah, like real life parody of like current events. I feel like Squeaks actually changed the culture of NoPixel around that with Ramaswamy. Like that whole arc, I feel like changed the dynamic of people being more willing to do that kind of stuff.
I think if people have been, I think it's sometimes people don't want to read that, right? Like, even like, when I think of the Sanguine Arc, that was, I don't think a lot of people necessarily picked up on the political commentary behind it, like with President or Senator Davis and all that. It was very George Bush era.
Yes.
And it was hyper memed around that.
It
But
was
a lot of
basically
people kinda
USA
missed
versus
it.
Iraq. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, I put so much into that RP. Yeah, and a lot of people it's unfortunate it got overshadowed by other things.
I don't think it did. I think we had amazing RP. It's just there's a lot of pussies that watch. I'm serious. Like Sanguine was sick. And I think most of the anti shit was like, my streamer got put in jail. Eat a dick, pussy. Like, this is a roleplay server.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, where do you fall? Where do you fall though on like heavy jail times? Oh, there's another area of trust I want to talk about. It's like trust between cops and crims. As an example, I wish we didn't have to escort people. I wish they I wish they just walked like with their hands cuffed. But like, I know that you can't soft cuff people because they'll run away. Like, but I wish there was like a trust where it's like,
you could though. I mean, you could soft cuff people, but if they run, they run.
yeah, but I'm like, okay, like realistically, when like, I wish that like there was almost like a, hey, like we caught this person and they're like kind of known to be caught and they sort of role play that, hey, I'm fucking caught. As opposed to how can I like shit lord out of this situation, right?
But some people have done that with me though. On Slacks, for example, and I gotta give some people just accept their fact they're going to jail and they are willing to move on to the stage of role playing with you as a cop and doing all that, right? But I don't get them pretty often, but some people still do it. They want the RP. They want to get caught. They want the consequences. They want the role play going to jail and getting out of it, right? They want that. They already have that planned.
And also there's I want to talk about trust on this, vice versa, going back the other way of like cops needing to trust crims on certain things and give, and again, that sort of give and take. Mehdi, where do you feel like this needs to grow?
Oh boy. I've done more shitlordy things than probably everybody. But so like I broke out of Mission Row PD back in 1.0. Oh my God, that caused so much of a stir. I broke Eugene out of prison on a terrorist arc with Kindle. Kindle is the biggest shitlord. I don't know if you've ever seen that character.
I've never seen Kindle.
Kindle was like testing the limits on everything I can do on a criminal. I think that at the end of the day, and people may not agree with this, it comes down to the police department. I think if you look at the, let's call it the formula as Crim and Cop, and that there needs to be sort of like an equal footing, then you've sort of lost the narrative, in my opinion. It is ultimately, as the police, you have certain powers, whether it's detainment, you get to fully control escalation, fully control how much room someone has, because you can cuff, because you can arrest, because you can put people on timeline.
You have whitelisted powers.
You have whitelisted powers, yes. And similar can be said about, like, let's say judges and now the mayor. And so as such, even if you're dealing with, well, we're going to get shot anyways, or the fact of the matter is you're never going to lose anything. And so I think as police, reading the individual that you're dealing with and giving them the benefit of the doubt, even if you might end up, it might result in a non-optimal conclusion, right? Like you soft clip someone that you've never seen before because you don't know who they are and there's no reason to expect they're going to escalate. And if it turns out that they do something out of line, right? They start running away, their boys come and shoot you, so be it. You know? Because by allowing that to occur, something good may happen, right? So that's kind of how I've always looked at it when I did play cop, is assume the best and be prepared for the worst. And if the worst happens, what you know, who cares? What is it, like a warrant, right? Like, or role play.
Ssaab, what's your reaction to that? Agree, disagree?
I mean, I'm with you, Mehdi, but I feel like we have progressed in a different direction as far as RP and kind of just the style that we accept on NoPixel as far as roleplay, where it encompasses everybody, not one. So it makes it hard to, I don't know, to always go down that direction, because you're always going to have conflict and resistance and people butting heads no matter what, unless you have one theme.
But yeah, but like if you, let's say I make a new character, I call him Billy Joe Bob, and I interact with a police officer for the first time, you know, I steal a vehicle. Should I be treated like a typical, you know, cop killer? Like right off the get?
No, you should be treated based on your actions.
Yeah, well, no, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, because now all of a sudden, if I am treated just like everybody else and with the highest level of escalation, well then what if I was planning to be a little bit more, you know, giving, but that high level of escalation is now effectively made me think, well, you know, I guess I have no options. You know what I mean?
Right, but how do you build that trust with that message you told the OOC, right?
By treating fresh faces like you would expect in real life. Just a regular character. You know, it's, oh, he caught some, you know, he stole a vehicle. Yeah, we'll soft cuff him. There's no reason for me in character to believe that this individual
that's how
is
gonna... everybody on Slacks. I even soft cuff like, you know, Dundee. Like I give that respect to everybody. Like it's my first time.
Oh, we're saying the same thing then.
Right. Yeah. But I'm saying that it's hard for but what I'm saying is, like, it's hard to have that all the time, every single time as interactions, because the server encompasses so many different styles of RP that some people have a different way about that, approaching it. Like some cop might call you, like, you know, might even plant some shit on you, or some shit, say some dumb shit that would piss you off and wouldn't make any sense as your first time interaction with the PD, right? It might ruin your PD interaction, right? And I think that's kind of the sometimes the good and the bad in NoPixel. Sometimes you might have some really good interactions, and sometimes you might have some bad interactions.
Yeah, I do think that one area, it's funny you mentioned this, Mehdi, because I even remember looking, I think I looked at this for Lil, I was doing this on Mickey, I looked at this for Lil Tugs, and I remember, like, dude, Lil Tugs was just treated as like as a fucking terrorist basically from day one, despite the fact that, like, Lil Tugs had actually not been caught doing anything. And it's like, and I think the other thing that maybe added a little bit of, like, issue to this is, like, it wasn't like when there were incidents or things happening, it wasn't like generic gangster with like a black mask on. It was like, oh, it was Lil Tugs. Like, you can see because of the character model, but then people used that to, like, and
oh
that,
my
like,
god,
yeah, nipple height, shit like that. Yeah, I get it.
I'll tell you right now that, like,
that makes you not want to play a ped, right?
Well, no, that's
100%.
well. So I remember people being like, "Well, why does he play a ped then?" And I'm like, "Oh my god." Like,
Yeah,
I was just like burning, and so my
victim limit you. Hey, why
saddest thing with his story arc is Lil Tugs had the Moonshine console, which consisted of a person from every gang in the city that did Moonshine, and there was a huge buildup with Tug, Sherry, Gigi, Ash. And we all stopped because we were like, it was just there was no things are just getting I don't know, it's hard to say. Like people just knew. There's too much knowing. And we're just like, what's the point? You know what I mean?
So do you feel like you gotta meta guard things? No, sorry for cutting you off.
No, I wouldn't say it wasn't just meta guarding. It was like you were gonna get the full 5th degree instead of allowing the role play to build up and for people to look into things. It was just like, you know, smashes do this. And I remember having these conversations like in game, and we were just like, what, like, you know, we want to get caught, we want to get investigated, but when you're just gonna get you know what it was like? It was like the OG 2.0 what was it? The Changaloa, where I remember Knight and Bass were investigating Changaloa by the lighthouse, and we spent so much time doing it. And then one day someone just drives up and they're like, oh, there was a drug call, so we send all the cops in. And we were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
So we could kind of sense that coming, and we're just like, what? There's no point. Like, why build up if it's just, you know?
I mean, truth to be told, and I might get shit on for this, but I don't care. The reason why I wanted to run the investigation in the PD is because I knew that was very vital in the RP steps. I knew that if I was roleplaying with you, Mehdi, or somebody else, I knew I wanted to build a story around it. That way you enjoyed the RP and the content like I did investigating you, right? And there's that back and forth, and eventually there's a conclusion, and then it ends, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I never got that opportunity because PD was always down bad, and we're not able to investigate, and you know, you get shit on, you get shit on, you get shit on.
Aziz, fly high, bro.
Oh no.
I miss that Slacks is in the ICU. As much as like Tugs and Nino shit on him, it was good. When is he coming out of ICU? That's the big question.
Dude, Coil's my judge for one of my cases.
Coil's your judge for what case?
For the Slacks case.
Wait, Coil has a judge character?
A judgy bloody hell,
Booty.
dude. Or booty, whatever. Is it booty? Booty? Is it booty or bloody?
I think it's booty, I'm pretty sure. Could be bloody. I
bloody.
think it's booty.
Oh, I want to see Coil's judge. I want to see him do that.
Yeah, well, here's what I'm gonna do on Slacks, okay? I'm gonna walk in a wheelchair and I'm just gonna shoot the judge and then walk out.
Bro,
I'm done. Here's my badge.
Don't tell Coil this shit. I want to see Coil do. I want to see Coil do judge stuff because Coil always follows. Even when he's not role playing, he always follows like the major court cases. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure a case laws him mid out of it or something like that. That's why he probably took it.
I actually have a question for you, Mehdi, and this is like from me personally. How do I not get burned out? Because I feel like my problem. This is like an actual question for me as a role player. My problem is I actually, what you said at the start about playing the different characters really resonates with me. My issue is I feel like I play too many characters and I feel like I don't give them enough time to like conclude their arcs. How do I how long do you like give to a character, and when do you know like an arc is sort of completed?
When it gets boring, to be honest. I think, like, for example, you know, when you sort of are at, you're gonna know it's end game when there really is no more feeling of like when you're logging in and you're just like, what am I gonna grind, right? And it's not what am I trying to achieve, right? When you don't have a long-term goal, is when it's time to switch. So like for Tugs, for example, I can say this. We were just printing money on Moonshine for so long that like, you know, we have a full farming business. I wake up, the ingredients are ready. I go cook. When I'm not cooking, I have my other cooks cooking, and it's just like, you know, and now at this point, Like, I'd log in and it'd be like, well, I got my car, I got my house, I got these things. What is the long-term goal? There is none. Time to switch. And I think that's the best way to put it. The other thing that I would say is most of my characters are perma characters that were good to keep. So you have to be prepared that if you're not getting traction with the idea, it's time to switch. Just kill it off and go to the next one.
I realize I have characters I'm in a perma, and then I actually made a perma character that now I don't want a perma. So
yeah, that's when you know there's something there. Some story may last a day, some may last a week. I mean, it is what it is, and with each new character that you make, you're gonna learn from it.
I have a question then for both of you. What's the goal if I want to roll, like, and not just me, like anyone? Because I know Giga is also playing a cop now too, and there's some people. I think isn't Fan even playing a cop now, or like trying one out?
Yeah, as well too. Yep.
Yeah. What is your guys? What's your advice? Oh, Ming's playing one. I'm excited to see Ming's cop. What's your advice for someone doing cop RP to like what is your story? What is your arc? Especially if you're like, I know there's some people who are like truly cop mains, but what if you're someone where it's like, hey, I actually play multiple characters, I do a lot of Crim, and maybe you started on Crim, now you're coming into cop. What do you do? Like, what's your goal? What's the mentality going into that?
I'll let Ssaab start first.
Oh, Blau, you're asking me a very heavy question. Honestly, truth to be told, for every single person who wants to play like cop, for example, I would say, A, go play Crim. B, go play in a public server as a cop. And then go through all that. And then prepare yourself mentally. And then just come back into it that way. That way you have seen the good, the bad, you have the other perspective, and it gives you the understanding exactly how you can develop a character and how your interaction will be with RP.
Okay, I hear you on that, but now it's like almost on the character side though. Like now that you're like, okay, I'm playing cop, but like what's like the goal of this character, or like what's the arc? Like how do I what are ways? Just like, do you find like a villain to go against? Do you find like an investigation that you really care about? Is there like a rank to achieve?
I think if you want to have a full developed arc from start to finish, I think you start as a rookie, very green, very fresh, and you allow the mentorship and apprenticeship in the role play as you start as a cadet to shape your character as a cop and what you're gonna go for. Unless you have something pre-planned outside of any of the experience, right? If you have something outside of a pre-planned, you have experience, then you can skip that step because you already know that, right? But if you want the role play to dictate what is gonna happen for your character, let that be a thing.
Yeah, okay. I fully agree with that. I think I caused a lot of controversy when I first created Brian, and I remember just
Civil War.
That's what you call it. Civil War, yeah. Yeah. It's easy to know how to play RSPC legislation, how to apply it. Listen, anyone can learn that like literally in 2 weeks. What people will not learn is how to role play actually learning that in character. To play a perfect cop is one of the easiest things you could possibly do. Playing a character that embodies actual learning in character is where it's difficult. And unfortunately, I think people will sometimes see that as trolling because they're expecting a self-insert. And when you're not self-inserting, it's very quickly, I think, can be highlighted as trolling or whatever those negatory adjectives may be. And the reason I bring up Brian as an example is the principle that I used when I played Brian was I will not learn a single lick of PD stuff. Like it was, the character was very anxiety driven, was very timid, was very scared. And in order for him to actually learn something, someone of authority would need to tell him something and then have to reinforce it a second time Otherwise, that character would never learned that particular thing. Does that make sense? So I actually put rules in place as to how his development would be. And that resulted in some very wacky scenarios where my character didn't actually know things, even though OOC DasMehdi did. And I think it made for brilliant role play. I think it's a lot more difficult to do that nowadays, only because the server is significantly bigger and there's a need, right? So it's hard to, it can put a lot of pressure on those that are teaching. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like what you're describing is what I feel like a pull towards doing that. But then I'm also like, the push away from doing that is all these people are investing time in teaching me, and it's very much like, yo, don't fuck around. Like, you have to do this shit by the book because we desperately need cops and we desperately need people doing boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, fuck, well, you know.
Oh, 1,000%. You could literally just get fired.
Yeah. It's like I can't do what I did in 3.0 where I had a cop character that just couldn't read and had to learn how to read, right? Like they were like if I tried to do that now, they'd be like, oh, we're just not hiring you. Like I'm like, oh fuck.
Well, as an example, right? Like let's say you were a cadet and you RP dropping coffee on yourself by accident because you're in the middle of drinking it and you get in a police chase, you drop it on yourself, and now you crash the vehicle and now you're getting in trouble, right? You know, the RP of it is good, but if the consequence is you may literally just get fired, you might be like, oh, fuck, am I going to do this?
Yeah, because you know people will walk in on eggshells, right? That ruins cop RP. Let's be honest, right? Because it becomes very one-dimensional.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, guys, I have kept you here for a little over an hour now. Mehdi, I always love having you on. You, man, like by the way, I learned some new shit today. It still blows my mind that Austin roleplayed, so I need to ask him about that. Mehdi, this reminds me of an episode I really want to do that I need to bring you on for, and we need to schedule it. And Ssaab, you ready for this one? I want to do the heist episode. I want to do an episode where all we talk about is heists, and just like whether it's the design of the heist itself, the getaway, the pursuit, and I feel like both you guys would be so good on the heist episode. So that you actually remind me that we didn't get to talk about heist today, but that's like a whole like very specific topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Mehdi, thank you so much for coming on Roleplay Podcast. I have to do our second shout out. Roleplay Podcast, by the way, we are on YouTube and all of your favorite podcasting channels. And yeah, we're still going. We almost do every week.
Did you know that Mehdi's brother's an OG lean boy?
I do know that. I know Mehdi's brother's lyric was an OG lean boy. And dude, oh my God. Okay, Mehdi, I want you to know I defend this to my chat all the time whenever people are like, oh my God, the OG clean boys. And I'm like, no. The OG clean boys are Nino, Tony, Lang, and Donnie. That's the OG clean boys. Like that heist crew was the OG. So I always put respect on that because I feel like people will skip the Nino Donnie era with that. I haven't forgotten.
He has not forgotten.
Right. Donnie Saj. I'm trying to get. I would love to see him come back for this.
We'll come back.
Politics arc.
We'll come back.
I feel like he came back in 4.0 for a little bit. I mean, I think it's also it's an election year, all that stuff. So.
All the better to be Nino's political advisor.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been DasMehdi, Ssaab, and myself, Blau. Thank you for tuning into Roleplay Podcast, guys.
Yo, thanks for joining in.
Catch you later. Oh, wait. Bye. Ssaab, say the line. Ssaab, say the line.
See you in the city.
Oh, that was a good one.